hem, heb ik staan voor nothing. Soms aan hem, heb ik staan for nothing.
Freedom. Power. Success. However you define them, it eludes most. It seems to be unique. It requires that thing that few people possess, that drive, that gift, that ability to create consistently with purpose. Kay Curtis is one of those few unique men. As a sales exec, he served industry leaders Apple, Merrill Lynch, and Xerox, and to date has closed over $700 million in business transactions. A man that didn't let his circumstances define him. A man that, after having it all and losing it all, he built it back up even stronger.
You just gotta keep moving. Let's go. Let's go. Not done.
A man that has fought through life's most difficult and persistent barriers, mastering his behaviors to acquire physical, emotional, spiritual, and financial power. As a husband, father, and business leader, he now shares his knowledge with others through the Mind Power Money method. And in doing so, he started a movement.
What's up? Stand up! Stand the fuck up! Yes! How you doing, brother? Woo! Nice. I like that track, bro. Thank you, bro. Thank you. Woo! Thank you, brothers. Today, I'm going to talk about closing big contracts. As you can see, it's titled, Closing Big Contracts Requires Big-Ass Old School Balls. Now, I'm going to back this shit up a little bit, because I know for the last day or two, we've been talking about funnels and technology. Naveen gave a phenomenal presentation about technology. Jeremy's presentation about telling stories, using video, all of that is appropriate in today's marketplace. However, if you are looking to close bigger contracts, if you are looking to close business that's over a certain amount, it is going to require that you develop actual relationships. I know that's a little weird for some of you. Relationships, actually talking to someone, because we live in a time where everything is instant. Everything. And you can't just sell everything to a funnel. Look at the things that we have in. So it used to be a dinner and a date. You can now order your dinner on the phone. You can order your movie on the phone. Hell, you can even order your date on the phone. Everything's in an instant. And we've carried this attitude of instant gratification, instant everything into our business, which is good. That's progress. But there are transactions that once you reach a certain size, a funnel isn't going to help you. It just isn't. It's just not. Facebook ads aren't going to help you. They're just not. If you don't have the ability to create trust and build relationships and talk to another fucking human being, you shouldn't even attempt to go after large transactions. Now, who am I? My name is Kay Curtis. As Garrett May told you. This is my kind of mini commercial for Warrior. They didn't put me up to this. Sam didn't threaten me or anything. But I went to Warrior Week 22. As he said, that was a very transformational week for me as well as I think for Warrior. You guys heard Nick earlier, and Garrett is right. We used to beat the shit out of each other. Like, literally, that's my boy. Nick is we are tight. But when that bell rang, he was going after me, and I was going after his ass too. Plenty of video of that shit. Warrior Week 44, Syndicate, Empire. I'm glad to see they brought Empire back, because when we were doing the quarterly events, that's when I think as far as me personally, I had made the biggest jumps in my business, in my body, at home with my family, dealing with my wife and kids. All of it was during Empire. So those of you who signed up for Empire, you're in for a treat. I'm glad that they're bringing that back. Also, certified trainer. Before I certified trainer, we did Warrior, SEAL, Grinder, Survivor. I don't know who all was here for that. There's only a few brothers in here who did that. There you go. Michael Isom. I think Jim Steg's in here. There you go. You brothers stand up. If you guys are there for that SEAL fit shit or that SEAL Grinder, stand up, because you deserve something. Hey, Kevin in the back, you deserve something special, because we went through something special. When you suffer together with a brother like that, when you go through something intense with a brother like that, you have a connection for life. And these men I'm connected to forever, because we went through that. So, 2 clap for these guys. 2 clap! Boom! All right, thank you. And then, certified trainer. For all the certified trainers in here, hey, that's the next step. Leave it, or live it, and then you have to lead it, right? Learn it, live it, lead it. And now, I am founder of KCFG Financial. I'm also creator of My Empower Money Method. Anyone else has seen any My Empower Money videos in here? Few of you. And then, leader of the New Black. Sam had this morning brothers coming up here, all of our black brothers, but not just black brothers, Asians, Mexicans, any minorities. The marketing, as I told Garrett, does not resonate with us, brothers. And so a lot of times when Garrett came and asked me, he's like, Kelly, why aren't more brothers signing up for Warrior Week? I'm trying to get more of them. You're the only one. For a long time, I was the only one. Just me. For a long time. Then Brother LaRod came through. Alex Willis came through. But it's still very, very few. And I told Garrett, I said, hey, we don't respond to the images we see. We don't. We see some crazy shit that you guys do in Warrior, and it's like, hey, that's some crazy white boy shit. That's literally what almost every brother's get. That's what's coming out of his mouth. That's some crazy white boy shit. Oh, I'm good. And we keep scrolling. So it's so good to see so many brothers in here today who've also had faith in the message and in the content. Now, I say leader of the New Black. The reason I mention these brothers, when I say the New Black means that we're not asking for shit. We do it on our own. We're not playing victim. We're not pointing fingers at any fucking body. We are 100% responsible for our condition. And I know there's a lot of brothers in here that feel the same way. So, and I say leader of the New Black, I'm not just a leader. Every man's a leader. Where's LaRod? LaRod's also a leader of the New Black. So is Kenrick. So a lot of the other brothers in here. So, you want to close larger deals, but a lot of you lack the fundamentals. You lack the fundamental skills necessary to close larger deals. Some of you are not used to actually having face-to-face interaction, especially if you've built your business based on online transactions. It's a good thing. The other thing is, you don't understand that a fired-up funnel or Facebook ad set is not going to get you there. So that's the problem. It's a big problem, actually. Contract selling requires that you have real conversations with people, sitting down, face to face, as in like a person, seeing what it is they want. So, if you have any chance of moving forward with these kinds of transactions, that's what I'm here to discuss today. Because here's what's on the other side of that. You can close bigger deals, which means you're getting more net money or revenue per transaction. It just is. They're just bigger. Now, when you do that, you also have a reduced marketing cost because it's not dependent on marketing to 10 million people to narrow it down to 10,000 people so then you can get your 100 people that you need. You're not meeting, you don't have to market as much because you're not having to see as many people. You also will develop deep client loyalty. How about this? What if you had a scenario where you never had to worry about competition? If you built your business online, every day you have to worry about someone having a better funnel than you, a better offer than you, someone coming in a little bit cheaper than your product. Every day that's your worry. What if you can eliminate that as a worry? Because when you do this right, clients won't want to leave you. And we're going to get into what I call being sticky a little later. They won't want to leave you. You can eliminate that as a factor in doing business as far as your competition. Now, how do you do that? One, you got to get to know them. You got to really get to know them. To the extent that I have clients that, hey, I'm on vacation. I need you to lock up. I need you to come check on my sick grandmother. These are all requests that I've had because we had real relationships. Anyone ever have those kind of requests with an online transaction? With an online transaction. Doesn't happen. Now, in other transactions, yes. But if you want to develop that kind of loyalty, because when competitors call my clients, they actually call me, say, Kelly, I got this call from this guy, and he said he had something better than you. You know what I say? So why don't you call him? See what he's got. And then we laugh about it. And then we go on. So the possibilities are endless as far as being able to close bigger deals, reduce your marketing expenses because you're not spraying the world with the possibility of them answering an ad, right? And you have much more increased client loyalty. Much better. So, on the principles, well, we're not going to get on the principles yet. Garrett's going to come out and ask you guys some questions and beat you up a little bit. Not beat you up, ask you some questions. But today's topic is really about backing up. It's not technology-driven at all. And getting back to basic human interaction. It's the only way you're going to close bigger transactions. If you want someone to transfer over $1 million or $10 million, they are not going to do it via text message. So here's some fundamentals to have in place before you can even think about making the ask.
Gentlemen, you know what to do. Down in your warm maps, Kelly got us started hot. Down in your warm map, you got 1 minute. What are you seeing here? We're introducing a new conversation. This is closing big ticket contracts and selling This is the shit that's not going to get done with a Facebook ad or an opt-in page. Off you go. You got 1 minute. All right, gentlemen, let's go. On your feet, go find one of the man. Somebody new. Somebody new. Do not get in the same conversation with the same guy. Move it, move it, move it, move it, move it, move it, move it. Go find somebody new. Come on, come on. Come on, come on. Move, move. Do not find yourself standing alone. Do not find yourself standing alone. You got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, if you don't have a partner, if you don't have a partner, raise your hand and move to the front of the room. Come to the front, come to the front.
Come on this way.
Come all the way to the front by the stage. There's Coach Kevin. Go down with Coach Kevin. I got one over here. We got another one over here. Just work your way down. Come all the way up here to Coach Kevin down the front. Get yourself a buddy. All right, gentlemen. First man is sharing. You got 1 minute. What's your insight? You are sharing in 3, 2, 1, and go. All right, switch it up, other brother. You got 1 minute. And 3, 2, 1, and go. All right, hug it up, hug it up, hug it up. Hug it up and get your ass back in your seat. Hug it up and back in your seat. All right. All right, all right, all right. Oh, beanies are out. Beanies are out. Let's see here. Let's see here. Let's go. On your feet. What's your
Josh
name?
Coleman, Indianapolis, Indiana.
Indiana.
Yeah.
All right, my man. So what are you seeing?
So this is kind of my world, right? Like in our office, one of the things we have above, like the conference room table and all that, is conversations equal customers. And so to me, this is my world. I sell, for lack of explaining it, like franchisees across the country. And so I fly into Orlando, Atlanta, Dallas, whatever.
Okay.
I bang the phone, set up meetings, and then they all come see me. We sit around the conference room and begin the sales process.
Okay, beautiful. So you agree. This is your world.
This is my world.
You get this.
Yep.
All right. Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect. Too good. Boom. How many of the rest of you in this room right now, this is your world? Raise your hands. Well, it appears, Mr. Curtis, there might be some fucking relevancy to what you're saying. All right, hold on. How many of you know that you, even though it's part of your world, you suck ass at it? Raise your hands. All right, hands down. How many of you know you could be significantly better? Raise your hands. Okay, perfect. Hands down. Throw back. Too good. All right, let's come. That's right, bro. Touchdown. Get up. Nice catch. Name and where you from?
My name's Austin. I'm from Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. All right, what are you seeing here?
Back to that truth statement. So I've been a fraud my entire life up until I'm 32 years old.
Okay.
And now I get to put my news story out there, which is going to be my truth. It is my truth. And to be vulnerable in that moment and kind of like what I hear through you, like I've heard your story before I even fucked up my life. I fucked up my life after hearing your story. And now coming here, I mean, I was fucking it up before, but I really fucked it up after hearing your story.
Okay.
And now, being in the moment of my pit, like, even though I heard all your content, I can now be in that pit and put my pit out to the world. And now I can be vulnerable in those moments. And
Yeah.
I know that I can sell and be the builder, be the marketer, and be the closer that I need to be for my daughter.
So here's the deal. There was a guy who used to be here, a student of mine, good friend of mine now, Ryan Stuman. And Ryan came on my radio show. This is like 4 years ago. He and I met like 5 years, 6 years ago. Then he came to Warrior Week, went through the process, etc. He was in the same place. Same place, figuring shit out, ended up getting divorced, got remarried, him and his new wife, super happy, blew up in business, etc. But one of the things he struggled with was the ability to be honest about his truth, because he figured that if he was honest about his truth, he wouldn't be able to actually close. I said, well, what if that's not true? Because it's working for me. Well, it could work for you too. Why don't we try it? So they come on my show, and I just want you to tell everybody fucking everything. So for an hour and a half, he literally did. He just told everything. Jail time, prison time, drug issues, all these. Just fucking went off. I just like sat on the phone. It was on my show. I was just like listening. I would ask a question every once in a while. And then he went vertical. And it took a shake up to go vertical. But if we consider you didn't fuck it up, you're just figuring it out. And how many of you know that there are issues inside of your world that when somebody tells you, like, Kelly's going to tell you shit, and I'm going to tell you shit, but you kind of are that guy who, like, you hear it, but then you like to validate it. So you're like, I hear you had a cocaine problem. I now have a cocaine problem. I understand you. So there's a lot of us that we just don't fucking get it until we experience it. So you got to hear my shit. You were inspired. So you said, well, I guess the first step is to fuck things up.
I burnt that shit to the ground.
Fair enough. Maybe I need to change my marketing. Put
burnt it.
disclaimers. Do not have to fuck it up by watching this video. Intention is to have you not fuck it up nearly as bad. But now you're in a place, no joking, in a place of pain. And I'm going to have you consider the pathway out is to talk about it and talk about it publicly.
I agree.
That's it. and it will become one of the most powerful tools for you in big ticket and big contract closing, because the hardest thing inside of big contract closing is trust. And everyone knows in the game of big money contracts, there is a constant shifting and positioning, and the way you shred that bullshit is the truth. The most powerful frame in the game is a guy who has nothing to fucking hide. Nothing to hide. You can stack frames all day long, Oren Clough style. You can do all this shit. It's all beautiful. The one thing that cuts through all of it, the truth. So you're beginning on this place. Okay? We want to see how far down the path you continue. Deal?
Deal.
You're in the right room, though.
Appreciate it.
Two clip. Boom. Two clip. Boom. Two clip.
Boom.
Beautiful share. All right, Kelly.
Yo.
Let's roll. Take us into section number 2. Off we go.
All right, section number 2. Principles. Principles. Face to face. I'm gonna tell a story about my business partner. My business partner and I have absolutely nothing in common. He's a 77-year-old, white-haired, white guy. Let me tell you how we met. Our oldest daughter is in college. We were at a dad's night out or some event. Huge estate property in Palos Verdes. I was there as one of the dads. Cigars and cognac, that was what it was. And with the other dads, had a good time. One of the nicest houses I've ever been in, to be honest. That following week, I get a phone call. An actual fucking phone call. Said, hey, I was at the event and was wondering if we could have lunch. I said, sure. I didn't really remember which dad he was. So I said, sure. Long story short, we entered into a partnership on a few deals. First transaction that closed, my portion of it was over $300,000. I said, let's do more. I like this dude. And since then, we have gone on to develop not only a partnership, but a friendship. And what he has done is allowed me into a world that he was already in and gave me access to actually visualize, watch, see, participate. And it taught me something too, because when I say old school, this dude is old school. He wouldn't have the first inkling about what a funnel even is. He calls, he sets up lunch appointments, just like he did me. I saw him do this to his clients, big clients. Clients like, his client is the Martinelli family, like from Martinelli Apple Cider. Founder of E-Trade was one of his clients. Guess how he got him? He picked up the fucking phone. It wasn't a funnel. The other key to this is that you get personal introductions. A personal introduction. This is different than a referral. A personal introduction is way different than a referral because there's already some implied trust. So when someone calls and says, hey, you know, I kind of like what you're doing. I like what you're doing. I got a guy, and he's usually, I got a guy that probably could use whatever it is that you're providing. Let me refer him to you. As soon as you hear that, can you arrange a personal introduction? Can you arrange a lunch date? On me. A personal introduction. That one piece of advice, someone gave me that advice some years ago. That one piece of advice has allowed me to close more business than any advice I think I've ever gotten. Because a lot of people will refer you. But when you're sitting there at lunch with the guy that they want to introduce you to, and you share a meal, and you can look him in the eye, and there is an implied trust there already because the guy that introduced you is sitting right there. Your chances of doing business are infinitely higher. Infinitely higher. It's the best transfer that you could ever receive. But it takes actual interaction. When I say reduce marketing expenses, how much is a lunch? Now, when I say I'm taking them to lunch, I take them to a nice lunch, like at the Waldorf or the Beverly Hilton, some shit that says something about me. And it says something about the person who is referring you or set it up. See, my guy is first class. So we both benefit. We both look good when I take them to nice places and we have a nice lunch and we share an afternoon. Usually it might spill over into post-lunch. Who knows? But what did that cost me? $200-300 for a nice lunch? Like a really nice lunch? $200-300? This is LA. Nice lunch in LA. Okay, let's say it's $300. How much did that last marketing budget cost you? Probably a lot more than $300. And it wasn't even a warm transfer. And it wasn't even the implied trust that comes from when you're sitting there sharing a meal with another person. And they're telling you about, because then the guard is all the way down. On a referral, if you've ever gotten a referral, you call it, hey, such and such, they told me to call you. It's instantly antagonistic. Because they're wondering, even if they said, such and such is going to call you, it's instantly antagonistic because they're like, who the fuck is this? I know such and such sent you, but I don't know who the fuck you are. Who is this? It's on the phone. You don't see them. You can't read any body language. And you're hoping that referral will actually net you some actual business or the next step or person-to-person meeting. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. I have this concept that I call getting sticky. You want to be sticky with your client. This speaks to what I talked to earlier, being hard to replace. You see, I advise on money. I advise businesses on executive compensation plans. It's not sexy, but that's what I do. But if you can imagine, in Los Angeles, it's pretty competitive. There's 200 other guys in my building, right in my building, that claim to do the same shit as I do. They don't do it as good. Certainly not as sexy, but they claim to do it. What's the difference? Why don't I worry about them? I have a sticky client. How do you get that client? Who said that? Good answer. Sticky client. How do you get that client sticky? Loyalty. How do you create a sticky client? Those are all great answers. Let me tell you my best way of creating a sticky client. Be there for whatever they call you for. I don't care what it is. You want all roads to come through you. Everything. My clients call me about the weirdest shit, like ever. I get calls about, hey, I got an airplane I gotta sell. I don't know shit about airplanes. But I want that call. You know what? Let me get back to you. And I make it happen. and I make a connection that they can then go do what they need. Oh, you know, my kid, they're traveling to Colombia. They need kidnap insurance. It's a real thing, actually. Let me get back to you. It doesn't matter. You become their concierge. You take care of so many things in their lives that when the competition comes, the next guy shows up at the door. So I got executive compensation plan. Really? You gonna take care of my kid's insurance or kidnap insurance? You gonna take care of my mother's elderly care? So he calls about that all the time. You gotta put old Martha in a home. We don't know where to even start, Kelly. Let me get back to you. Get as many details as I can, and I get back to them with someone. That's how you become sticky. I had a client that, this is back when I was with Merrill Lynch. It's weird that I was with not only Apple, Merrill Lynch, as well as Xerox. What all three of those companies have in common is that, A, they're market leaders in their space. 2, they're not cheap. They're never the least expensive. Everybody in here has an iPhone, probably had cheaper options. But you buy the iPhone anyway. I'm an Android guy. I see you guys. Same with Xerox. Xerox was we were always the most expensive in the room. But by being able to provide a premium service, you can charge more. You are happy to pay more for that iPhone because it just does more shit. Right? Had a client that we had a meeting, and they were looking for, actually there was probably 8 couples. This is at the time when I was at Merrill Lynch. 8 couples met at the Bel Air Hotel, and the discussion was when to fly the private jet versus when to just fly first class. Now, I had no idea that these discussions were even taking place. But my partner at the time brought me into this meeting, and so I'm just sitting there observing. And come to find out, there are times when you should fly private and when you should just, fuck it, fly first class last minute. And there's this couple sitting next to me, and she said, well, honey, we should probably just arrange our Italy trip a little different. Apparently, they had rented out a whole castle in Europe. This is one of the 4 major trips they would take a year. Whole castle in Europe. And the private jet was going to cost about $350,000, $400,000 to get there private. And so we were talking about solutions to where, hey, maybe fly first class over to Europe and then jump on a private charter once you get over on that side. You just saved us $260,000, $300,000. But that took a conversation. That took us getting in a room and discussing. We also, something else I didn't know that came out of this meeting was, well, if we have the help come, then if they're actually serving us on the plane or serving these people on the plane, then it falls under a whole different insurance category. Who the fuck knew? I was learning some shit. So I now know that when I have a private jet and I'm bringing the help and she's serving us donuts, I got to get a different sort of coverage. See, that's something for you guys too. this goes back to my point of face-to-face, actual relationships, asking questions. And we'll get into the power of asking questions a little bit later. But it's all part of closing larger transactions. Now, do you think the 8 couples that are in that room, and you can guess, do you think they may have represented some of our better clients? Probably. If they're talking about flying first class overseas, probably. They don't give a fuck about my text message. They want a fucking phone call. They want you to show up when there's a problem or an issue. They do. That is the expectation once you cross a certain threshold, dollar-wise. They're going to want to see you. So, ask powerful questions. Make them take you to an expensive lunch, too. Expensive for them, like a Denny's or some shit. Applebee's or some shit. Face-to-face relationships. One of the key things to developing relationships, and what Garrett alluded to or actually said, was the ability to create and build trust with your client. And this will require you to ask powerful questions, uncomfortable questions. Especially in my business. I'm in finance, so we deal with estate transfer and wills and taxes and that kind of thing all the time. So I'm asking a lot of very uncomfortable questions. Like, when you die, who do you want taking care of your children? You got kids?
I do.
It's an uncomfortable question. It's like, what do you mean when I fucking die? Yeah, well, if something happened to you and your wife right now or tomorrow, who would take care of your underage children? It's a tough question. Or, better yet, let's say you, my business partner, I told you, he's a 77-year-old guy from Marina Del Rey on his 5th marriage. Think he might be able to use Warrior? No shit. It's on his 5th marriage. So one of the questions that comes up with him and guys like him, he's not unique. There are a lot of guys, especially in my business, in our industry, 3rd, 4th, 5th marriage. I know one guy has for an all-time record, 7 marriages. And my partner, he does well. I'm like, how much better could you be doing without the 4 other divorces? Like, really? Every time he gets one side note, one of his wives even told him in the beginning, you know, I just want to marry you for a house. And he wouldn't marry her anyway. What the fuck? Are you just an idiot? What the fuck, Bill? Anyway, it requires you asking hard questions. One of the questions that I have to ask at times is, okay, you're on your 3rd or 4th wife. You got kids from number 1, 2, 3. If something happens to you, you already told me that you want to take care of 3rd wife's kids in this manner. What about the wife or the ex-wife? And sometimes his current wife is sitting right there when I'm asking the question. And it gets real uncomfortable. But that's required as far as being uncomfortable and getting uncomfortable in these situations. Because one of the things, when you ask an uncomfortable question, then just shut up. Shut up and listen. Listen. And not just listen, but Coach Sam alluded to earlier, you have to hear not only what they're saying, but what they're not saying. because he might be having one thing come out of his mouth, but his body language, everything else is saying something completely different. He might be saying one thing, but his wife that's sitting right there, even though she's silent, her body language is screaming something different. You got to be able to pick up on that. Now, a lot of times in transactions, when I'm involved with, especially with business owners, I have to deal with their attorneys and their CPAs, and they're in the meetings too. And they usually won't say anything, but their body language gives it away every fucking time. You know almost right away if you're kind of in alignment with this guy or okay, CPA is going to be a problem. He's going to kill this deal. So, one of the things is turn cell phone off. In these meetings, turn phone off. Sounds so simple, but I can't tell you how many meetings I go to or someone trying to get business from me. I'm the client, and the phone's on. Oh, just killed that deal. I'm not doing business with someone who's not paying fucking attention when I'm sitting right there in front of them. Demonstrate that you care, that you give a damn. Write shit down. This is probably another really good piece of advice. Write shit down. It helps you both remember what's going on. Every time I sit down with a client, I have a yellow pad of paper. And I write down everything they tell me. One, to the client, visually, he's thinking, oh, this guy's paying attention. He turned his phone off. He's got his yellow pad, and he's writing. He's paying attention. Two, it helps you remember what happened, because you may need to refer to those notes. And it's a funny thing when you talk about money with people, they seem to forget a lot of shit. They forget a lot. Look at this note here. This is what you said on this day. Keep notes. It'll help you and them. The other thing, when you take notes, it creates a visual narrative. Because there's a lot of confusion going on in their heads a lot of times. And by the time we get through talking and I write all these notes out and diagrams and things, even though it's their information, almost every time, inevitably, they'll ask, can I get a copy of that? You just told me. This is your shit. But because they're able to digest it in a different way, what you just laid out for them provides clarity. And that's the most crucial criteria that you can have in building trust is clarity. Because when people are not clear, they will not buy. You can write that down. When people are not clear, they will not buy. And if you're talking about a complex situation, because even after they spill it out to you, they're still confused in their head. That's the whole reason for a proposal. I know that's old school too. Nobody does proposals anymore. But you can write shit down because it helps you get clear, helps them get clear. There's some implied trust there that you're paying attention, phone's fucking off, and at the end of it, they'll be clear because now they're looking, you've taken it from the mental, out of their mouths, into your ears, and onto a sheet of paper. Something in that whole transfer is magical. Magical. I never go into a large transaction or even a negotiation or meeting without doing that. Shit works. It's old school, but the shit works. If you want to use a tablet, that's fine. But write the shit down. Use stories. Use stories. Communicate your message in story form. A lot of times, especially when it's complex, a lot of times with non-qualified deferred compensation plans, which is a technical term for what I do, shit can get kind of confusing. The business owners, they know their business well, but they don't really understand what it is I'm talking about a lot of times. So I use stories. Stories are powerful, especially when we're talking about, a lot of times I get into conversations about estate planning and estate transfer. And here's how I differentiate myself from the other 200 guys in my building. They claim to do the same thing I do. Because after we talk about the money, after I draw shit out, and they understand and they see it visually, we put that aside and then ask them, well, what are some of the other things that you want to make sure transfer when you pass away? I say, well, what do you mean? Like, what other things of value outside of your money do you want to make sure are here or speak for you when you're gone? And you're like, well, I'm not sure. Are there any stories, photographs, family traditions, anything that are valuable that you want to speak for you when you're not here? And that's when I tell the story of George Washington and my grandfather. Every time, anyone who's met with me, they know this story. I tell it a lot. George Washington did a lot of shit. But we know about the shit he did because he had a journal that he kept almost every day of his adult life. He even had hotel receipts. And on his dying, when he was about to die, he had them all his journals lined up on his deathbed. He had them all lined up just ready to transfer. He was so adamant about making sure that you knew who he was. He even had his portrait painted many times. Many times. Now, it's not like today where you take 1 million pictures on your iPhone. Back then in 1700s, you had to have someone actually paint a portrait. It cost $12,000 in today's money to paint a portrait. $12,000 for a selfie in today's money. And he did it a lot. Why? Because he wanted his likeness to transfer. Now, he was a wealthy man. Had all kind of shit. Had a lot of money. But do we talk about his money today? We don't talk about his money. We talk about all the shit he did. Sailed the Potomac, first president, fought in wars, all kind of shit he did. And hundreds of years later, there's a record of it. There's a history of it. There's a legacy there. Contrast that story with the story of my grandfather. My grandfather was born in the late 1800s, believe it or not. He's since passed. He had story after story. When I was little, he would just sit and tell all these stories. He had lived a very rich life. Moved out when he was 12 years old. Worked at a coal mine. Moved to Chicago. Spoke 4 languages. Was one of the first black real estate owners in Chicago. Did all these things. Had all these stories. After story, he would tell us when we were little. But here's the difference. When he passed away, so did all those stories. So did all that legacy. All of it. Now, I have children of my own today. I don't know what price I could put on something tangible that I could hand to my boys that came from my grandfather. I don't know what that's worth, but I know it's valuable. Because now the conversation isn't about, oh, I can do this for you financially, or I can charge you this much or that much. this has now shifted into a conversation about immortality. You having a say in what they will say about you hundreds of years from now. A properly documented recipe will survive at least 5 generations. You know how much money lasts? If you do it good, maybe 2, 3 generations. They're going to fuck it up. They'll spend it. Let's tell you right now. That money, if you think it is going to last, that is hard to do. Very hard to pull off. But I tell those stories. That story of George Washington. I tell this story of my grandfather because one reason I tell it, because it differentiates me. Now it's not even a conversation about the other shit I provided. God damn it. Because if they resonate with that story, I already know I don't have no competition. I already know the other 200 guys in my building, they're not going to hear that from them. They're not. They're not even allowed to. And that's some shit. So use stories. Draw it out. Pictures. Pictures work. Whenever I'm talking about stocks and bonds, I draw it out in pictures because some people don't understand the inverse relationship between stocks and bonds, equities and debt holders. So I draw it. And I use a little story. Sailboats and swordfish. Simplifies it. Oh, okay, I get it. I get it. Keep it simple. Keep it so simple that a child could duplicate these pictures. Don't fuck around and try to be Picasso, Rembrandt, or some shit. Keep it simple.
Gentlemen, you know what to do. Down to your warm map. Let's go. Biggest insight here. I'm from the production game on top of the principles. You got 1 minute to write it down. 3, 2, 1, and off you go.
All right. It's absolutely true what Garrett said. Large transactions take time. You have to be patient. And even if you're patient and you take the time, they don't always turn out the way you want them to. And so, kind of a side note in that you don't want to have all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. You should be having conversations all the time. All the time. Because just like anything else, some of these conversations are going to work out, other ones won't, and that's okay. Because the ones that do work out make it so worth it. So, I'm going to talk to you about the path. And the one thing that you should take away from today is to know your offer. Know it well. If you, actually all of us that have gone through Warrior Week, actually of all the men who've gone through Warrior Week, you probably landed on a funnel or video, but when it came to transferring the money, how many of you actually talked to a human being named Mr. Sam Falsafi that got you into Warrior Week? Actual human being. Every single warrior man that has gone through Warrior Week has had a conversation with another man. It's required. Know your offer. Sam is lethal, not only at closing, but he knows exactly what the warrior offer is, its benefits, and what it can do for another man. You have to be crystal clear about that. If you've ever gone to a high-end restaurant and the waiter comes by, asks you what you want, and he describes that night's special. Now, if he's good, he's going to make you want that even if it's some shit you don't even normally eat. Because the way he describes it, oh my God, say, I don't even eat that. Because he's good at knowing his offer. His offer happens to be a meal of some sort. So, keys. What you want to do is define the 4 major main attractive points in your offer. Your offer should have at least 3, maximum 5. If it's too many, that's not going to work either. If it's too few, then it doesn't seem like there's enough value there. So 3 to 5. 4 is like right in the middle. Write them down. Know them well. The other thing is, you want to develop personal stories for each of those points. They don't have to be your story. They just have to be a personal story. Even better, if there's an emotional component to it. When I tell the story of my grandfather, there's an emotional component to it. I draw my kids into that story. I don't have to make up some shit. You don't have to make up a story. It can be true. But have a personal story. You can tell someone else's story. That's okay too. Just make sure it's personal and it has an emotional component to it. Write these stories down. Write them out. Because what you're going to find is that there are details that you can capture that you may or may not want to convey when you're telling the story. Create diagrams, models, pictures. You should be able to draw out the point in picture form. Each one of your points you should be able to draw out in a picture. And again, these should be simple pictures. Your 6-year-old should be able to duplicate these pictures. Nothing fancy. When I'm discussing certain concepts, financial concepts, sometimes I use a little teeter-totter. My kids can draw this out, but it makes something complex easy. Now you have a visual. And then you have to practice telling these stories. You have to practice drawing these out. You have to practice your ass off. It takes practice. One way to practice is on people. Tell the story over and over again. That George Washington story I've told many times. I have a Great Dane story I won't tell today, but I told that Great Dane story so many times that you get good at it. There's a story I tell when I'm meeting with someone, and it's about pure joy. Pure joy. What does it have to do with closing a client? It's really about finding purpose. Finding, and in warrior speak, finding your why. Sam talks a lot about that. I have 2 kids, 2 boys. And 2 drastically different reactions when each of them was born. I don't know, some of you may be able to relate to this. When my oldest was born, when my wife was pregnant, we knew he was going to be a boy. Had his name picked out and everything. Buying shit. Got a boy coming. But in my mind, it wasn't, I knew he was coming, but it wasn't real. It was a surrealistic experience for me, all the way up to the moment he was born. Like literally, I'm in the hospital, and it wasn't even real to me at the hospital. I'm like, all right. Because part of the reason why it wasn't real to me, because I was distracted. On my phone, not present. I was before Warrior. But I'm in the hospital. It's not even real to me. I'm in a delivery room, and it's not real to me. He was actually born, and I'm looking at him, and it was not real to me. It did not register literally into my head that, oh, it wasn't real. But here's when it became real. Not when we were at the hospital, not in the delivery room, not even when he came out, but the moment he started to cry, I said, holy fuck. It's like I got hit by a fucking freight train. That moment I heard him cry, I'm like, holy shit, this motherfucker is here. I'm not ready. That was my immediate thought. That's the honest to God truth. I was like, holy shit, he's here. I'm not fucking ready. I wasn't paying attention the whole time. But when he started to cry, it's like reality hit me. My second son. This time, my wife decided she didn't want to find out if it was a boy or a girl or not. And I wanted to know. She said, I don't want to know. I wanted to be surprised. Well, that's bullshit. Let's fucking find out. She said, oh, we got to, pick boy and girl names. No. Tell me what the fuck I'm working towards so I can, guide my energy in one direction or not. We didn't even have a name for him until like 3 days later. But I had resigned myself mentally. See, this is how the mind works. I had told myself that, you know what? The reason she don't want to know, the reason why she don't want to tell me, because I wanted 2 boys. My ideal situation, I wanted 2 boys, 2 fucking kings. That's how she don't want to tell me. She knows, a girl. I had already resigned my, all right. Having a girl. Whole time, having a girl. Same thing. At the hospital. We're going to delivery. And I'm like, okay, this girl, I'm going to love her anyway. But I really wanted a boy. And so we're in the delivery room. I'm there with, actually, my mother-in-law. She's in there with me. And doctor says, oh, no, just wait right here. And they bring me in. And I really couldn't see, because I had this whole thing up, and I wasn't trying to peek behind. But there was a moment when he comes out, I hear him crying. I didn't have the same reaction as I did with my first son. This one didn't catch me by surprise or knock me out of some trance. But I heard him cry, but I couldn't see him. I heard him crying, but I couldn't see him. But then the doctor lifted him up from behind a little sheet there. And when he lifted him up, and I saw it was a boy, I tell the story, I said, it was a moment of pure, unfiltered joy. I mean, it's the only way I can describe it. It was so pure that I had never felt that just straight, drug addicts will tell you something, similar. But it was like, whoa, pure joy. Fuck. You may not ever have those moments in a lifetime. I will spend my entire life trying to duplicate that feeling of pure fucking joy. What does that have to do with closing business and Warrior and why you guys are here? Because in those moments of pure joy, and I felt it, I mean, it was visceral. Even now, when I think about it, it's like, that's when you realize why you're here. This is a business summit, but I don't have to look any further than that moment to realize, you know, I got to do this, not just for me, not for my wife. And we love our wives, but a man told me once before I had kids, he said, I'm going to tell you what will happen when you have kids. You might run in front of a train for your wife. Maybe. Depending on the week, how the conversation went that day, you may. But when that baby comes out, you will not hesitate. And he is so fucking right. And so for all of you that either have kids, want to have kids, if you have a dog you feel that way about, whatever it is you can attach that feeling to, use it. Use it. Use it to get shit done. I use it all the time. When I'm tired, I don't fucking feel like it. Many of you can relate to those days when we just don't feel like working. Sometimes there's weeks, months at a time that I've taken where but use those moments to get you in the gear, get you back in the right path.
Gentlemen, you know what to do. Go to your warm ups. Final takeaways from this session. Final takeaways from this session. Down to your warm ups. You got 1 minute. Off you go.
Big money! Big money! Big money! Big!
The miracle will happen. It might not happen the first time you open it. It might not happen the second time you open it. But I promise you this, at some point this will fucking click and your life will be unrecognizable.
I became a different man. I don't compromise. I don't negotiate. I have this clarity and certainty of where I'm going, and I don't negotiate with anyone.
You can't put a dollar figure on that. And this right here is all the work, all the effort of all the men that have come before me in the palm of your hands. It's an opportunity for you to change your own life and change the lives of those that are around you.
And even in the start, I started to change. There's been a lot of work. I've done a fuck ton of work. I devoured the content once I got it. I studied, I worked, I made it my priority because there was nothing I was going to do that was going to help the rest around me, to be, you know, I didn't know how to be a better father. I didn't know how to be a better husband.
My relationship with my wife is on its peak. For that, I'm very grateful. My business has exploded, and that is because this concept of warrior is growing from the inside out.
And I just would say, why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you take that chance? Why wouldn't you find enough value in yourself to make this decision, become part of a movement, a brotherhood? It's the best thing I've ever done.
It's too hard to do it by yourself. And I don't choose to do it by myself anymore, and now I don't have to.
The results came. I changed. I found my way out.
It wouldn't have mattered what that cost would have been, because I knew there was no price I could put on leveling up. There was no price I could put on my family and my kids and my wife and becoming a better version of myself. There's no price tag there's no price.
And the best news is in the decision, the change begins. If you decide, your life has already changed in that one decision, in that 1 second.